Today, we're going to talk about why confusion is often the real red flag, how to break the loop without shaming yourself, and why the moment clarity feels boring is actually the moment you're getting free. Because clarity can feel boring, it can feel anticlimactic, it can feel like, oh, that's it. And that's good, that's peace. Last lab session. And I want to start this one with something that might feel a little too direct, but I mean it with care. If you are constantly confused, that confusion is not always complexity. Sometimes it's a red flag. Not because you're dumb, not because you're dramatic, not because you can't handle relationships or whatever people say online. Sometimes confusion is a red flag because the environment you're trying to understand is unstable. And if the data keeps changing, your brain can't land. So you keep thinking, you keep replaying, you keep revisiting. You keep looking for the one missing puzzle piece that will make the whole situation make sense. And you're exhausted, but you're not clear. That's what we're calling a decision fatigue loop. And today, we're going to talk about why confusion is often the real red flag, how to break the loop without shaming yourself, and why the moment clarity feels boring is actually the moment you're getting free. Because clarity can feel boring, it can feel anticlimactic, it can feel like, oh, that's it. And that's good, that's peace. So, what is a decision fatigue loop? It's when you're stuck circling the same question because you don't have stable data. And the loop usually looks like this. You notice something feels off, you get anxious, you try to solve it immediately, you gather opinions, you replay conversations. You ask, what if 100 different ways? You find a temporary explanation. Something changes again. You're back in confusion. Repeat. And here's the tricky part. That loop feels like you're being responsible. It feels like you're trying to make the right decision. But what's actually happening is your nervous system is trying to find safety in certainty. And if the environment can't provide certainty, you'll start manufacturing it. Sometimes by overthinking, sometimes by controlling, sometimes by blaming yourself. And self-blame is one of the most toxic forms of manufactured certainty. Because if you can convince yourself it's my fault, then at least it's explainable. It's painful, but it feels more stable than I don't know. Hi, love. Before you go, if you want something you can actually work through off camera, I have a free Guard Your Proximity guide linked below. It's simple, it's grounding, and it gives you a starting point when you can feel yourself slipping into confusion. And here's the fun part. When we hit 100 subscribers, I'm celebrating with a giveaway. The reward is the full Guard Your Proximity workbook. This is a complete extensive PDF that goes deeper and walks you through how to guard your proximity and stay grounded. So, if you want that reward unlocked, subscribe and share the channel with someone who'd get value from this. The faster we hit 100, the faster the giveaway drops. Consider this my thank you for building this with me reward. Now let's get back to the video. I know this because I lived through a season like this. There was a time in my life where I felt alone. I didn't have many people to turn to, and I plagued myself with what ifs. What if I did something wrong? What if I said something wrong? What if I misunderstood? What if I'm the problem? And I convinced myself that I must have done something wrong because people turning away didn't make sense to me if I was doing the right thing. I didn't even need evidence. I just blamed myself. It became toxic, not because self reflection is bad, but because it was a self reflection with no facts. It was guilt without proof. And I remember begging God to show me what I did wrong. It was like my brain wouldn't rest until it had an answer. And after going through that vicious cycle for a long time, I spoke with a small amount of people close to me for clarity. I went to church, and the message felt pointed. The preacher said something along the lines of, someone has been asking God what they did wrong. And the response is, you did nothing wrong. And moments like that give me clarity, especially when I'm exceptionally hard on myself. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying this happens like that for everyone. I'm not saying go to church and you'll get a perfect sign. That's not what I'm doing here. What I am saying is, I was stuck in confusion and I needed grounding. And that message grounded me. It interrupted the loop. It gave my nervous system a stable point. Stop inventing guilt where there is no guilt. So here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying ignore your feelings. I'm not saying spiritual clarity will always arrive in a dramatic moment. I'm not saying confusion means you're incapable. Feelings matter. Without them, we wouldn't be able to identify when something is wrong, either something we did or something someone else is doing. But feelings are indicators, not always instructions. If you're confused, it's okay. You don't need to panic. You don't need to punish yourself. You need to return to what we've built in this series: landmarks, trust jar, option mapping, and data versus narrative, because those tools are what break loops. Let's talk about boring clarity. When you've been living inside emotional intensity, hope, fear, anxiety, uncertainty, clarity can feel flat. And some people don't trust it for that reason. They think if it's not intense, it must not be real. But the truth is the opposite. When something becomes clear, your brain stops spending energy trying to solve it. Your nervous system stops scanning constantly. Your body stops bracing. So it feels boring because it's no longer consuming you. That's not a lack of love. That's not numbness. That's not settling. That's stability. And stability is often quiet. Now I want you to remember the tools and how to use them properly. So here's the Discernment Lab loop breaker. If you write down one thing from this whole series, write this down. Step one, check your landmarks. Landmarks are basically areas to pay attention to: emotional, mental, action, or lack of action. You have your inner landmarks. I feel anxious. My thoughts are racing. I feel urgency. I feel pressure to fix. Your external landmarks: what actually happened? What didn't happen? What has repeated? What is observable? If your inner landmarks are screaming, there's a signal to pause before you decide anything. Step two, check the trust jar. Ask yourself, are marbles being added or removed? Is trust being consistently earned through behavior, timelessness, care, honesty, repair? Or is trust being consistently lost through disrespect, lying, avoiding, excuses, regression? The trust jar isn't about shaming anyone, it's a visual for reality. And reality is what breaks confusion. Step three, separate data from narrative. Remember your definitions. Data or data is what has happened, what has occurred. Narrative is what we hope will happen. And this is the line that matters. Potential isn't data. Hope is fine when effort is real. But if you're watering nothing, don't call it growth. And step 4, option map. Once you have landmarks, trust jar, and data versus narrative, then you map the options. Stay and accept. You stay with no expectation of change. Confront and observe. You communicate to see what happens next. Adjustment, repair, dismissal, excuses, nothing. Create distance. You step back to reassess, stabilize, and reduce noise. And exit cleanly. This is finality, not a threat, not a cycle, a clean end. And remember, we do not weaponize boundaries. We set clear and fair consequences. We don't cut people off prematurely without assessing what's actually happening. But we also don't keep giving full access where trust hasn't been earned. That is the whole system. Those steps break decision fatigue loops because they replace chaos with structure. Now, I'm going to be firm here in a way that I hope lands as caring. If you keep living inside confusion, you will start making choices you don't recognize. You will become someone you don't like. You will get reactive. You will get controlling. You will get resentful. You will get exhausted. Not because you're bad, because you're overloaded. So here's what I want you to consider doing when you notice you're in a bad loop. Take a clarity pause. Not forever, not avoidance, not disappearing. A pause is how you stop anxiety from driving. Look at the facts. If it's hard to decipher, breathe and revisit later. Because a nervous system in panic is not good at discernment. And now I want to end with the part you care about most: kindness. I want you to be kind to yourself, even when you're wrong. We all make mistakes, big ones and small ones. Guilt exists for a reason. It can point you toward repair. But guilt is not meant to become your identity. You do not beat yourself up to the point where you start saying things like, I deserve what I have coming. No, there is a time for grief. There is a time for forgiveness. There is a time to make things right. And when you have made a mistake, here's what discernment looks like: own it, apply changes, ask for forgiveness, and do the best you can to rebuild. That's where the trust jar becomes hopeful again. Marbles can be added back, not through speeches, through consistency. And if you didn't do something wrong, if you're inventing guilt because you can't tolerate uncertainty, then let this be your grounding line. Maybe the clearest thing you can do today is stop punishing yourself for something you can't even name. If the facts don't point to guilt, you don't have to manufacture it just to feel in control. This is the last video in this series. The Discernment Lab is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. And clarity is not dramatic. It's repetitive, it's structured, it's honest. If you take anything from this whole series, take this. When confusion is constant, it's not always your fault. Sometimes it's the environment, and your job is to return to the tools. Check your landmarks, check the trust jar. Separate data from narrative, map your options, then breathe. Clarity might feel boring. Let it, because boring clarity is often peace. All right, that's the lab. I'll see you in the next series. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with me today. If this video resonated with you in any way, I'd really appreciate you taking a moment to like and subscribe. Sharing this video helps it reach someone else who may need it, and that support truly makes a difference. If you'd like to keep coming back, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful you chose to spend part of your day with this content. Take care of yourself, move at your own pace, and I'll see you next time.